My name is Eda Roth. I've been working with ASTHO for a couple of years, helping people to develop and deliver clear messages. And we thought in this really critical time when so many of you are out in the public so much and in many different circumstances, that we would just put together a video to give you some tips on how you can do that better. There's really a difference between the written word and the spoken word. The written word has a lot of complex sentences, wraparound sentences, and those are really hard to deliver when you're actually talking to people. So the spoken word is shorter, punchier, and more direct. And really think about that if you're writing a message, is how to convey that in shorter, clearer sentences that can reach people more easily. The other thing about the written word is if you are reading something that you have written, you want to be actually talking to people, not just reading what you've written. We really need to have animation in your voice. That sense of caring is important to come across. The foundation of this is that you really care about people, you care about giving them clear information, and that sense, that fundamental sense of being connected to a sense of purpose is what will animate your message. A lot of people talk really quickly, when with no pauses. Pauses are important because they allow people to receive your message. So if you're a fast-moving train with a lot of information, people really can't grasp what you're saying, and it's really hard to get messages across if you're talking 1, 2, 3. So just slow down, an occasional pause. So some ways to think about animation, really, it's basically being grounded in this is really important. And you might think of a phrase like that, this is really important, or it's important that you get this information. That sense of connection might animate your sense of delivery. And for those of you who are not comfortable speaking in public, I want to remind you it's not about you. It is about the important things that you are bringing to people at this critical time. And sometimes that alignment with purpose consciousness helps to dissolve self-consciousness. Conversational aspect is very important. You need to talk to people as if you're having a conversation with them. So one thing to think about is what are the questions on the mind of the audience to which this is an answer? And if you really have difficulty because you're so used to a lot of clear information, one way to think about this is imagine or actually practice by talking to people. Talk to a family member, talk to somebody who doesn't have the kind of expertise that you have, and you will find that it actually helps you be able to talk to people, number one, with that sense of caring, and number two, with a language that actually reaches them and a tone that actually reaches them. So that's a really good way to practice. We need your knowledge, we need your expertise, but we need your humanity. And so bottom line, that sense of caring about what you're delivering to people, the messages that you're delivering is important. You might actually include something personal about yourself. I mean, one person I heard talked about, she began her presentation by talking about empathy and sympathy for people who had lost loved ones, and then talking about her own experience having been sick with the virus and her own recovery. So that sense of connection to the audience, it makes you more human. The caveat about that is if it's too raw for you, if it's too immediate, wait until you actually can talk about it. All right, let's talk about questions and answers because we get a lot of those. So there are two basic principles, which is respect all questions, respect all questioners. Are there dumb questions? Possibly, but we never actually flag those. And there are 4 basic steps to answer questions. Listen and only listen. Don't begin nodding and jumping in with your answer. Clarifying a question, which you will not do a lot of in most of these circumstances. Respond, and the key thing about responding is respond hopefully succinctly and clearly. So watch out for, doing a lot of thinking as you're talking. Clear responses are good. And the last step is checking. And again, you probably won't do a lot of this in circumstances. You won't be saying, does that answer your question? Especially in large groups, you don't want to do that because you want to invite questions from different parts of the audience. Reporters clearly will jump in and ask follow-on questions if they have them. Something that's important is if you are in a large group and someone has asked a question and people in the room or people in the television audience, say, cannot hear the answer, you need to repeat the question. It is really difficult to hear an answer to a question when you haven't heard the question. The caveat and when you should not do that or when you should do it differently is if somebody asks a really hostile or aggressive question, do not repeat negativity. So what you would do then is reposition it. So if someone says, why have you been so crazy and stupid and come up with these dumb answers, you do not repeat that. You would say the question has to do with the process and the timing of what we've been doing. Let me respond by saying, etc. Don't take hostile questions personally. Try to listen for what's the underlying issue. What are people concerned about? What are they afraid of? What's the issue? And respond to the issue. Do not react. It is not about you personally, even though it feels that way. What do you know about the outlet, and what do you know about the kind of stories or how they cover stories? Who's the audience? Your audience that you are addressing is not actually the interviewer, it's the audience that the interviewer actually sends out information to. So what are they likely to ask? Think about this in advance. Has there been something specific they want you to talk about? Has there been some new information that's come out in the media that they will want your response to? Think about questions and prepare answers in advance. You should also have at least 1 to 3 points that you want to be sure to get in. So prepare those and make sure that you get them in. If people ask you a question that you really don't want to answer, if they're trying to set a trap for you to answer something controversial, don't go there. So if they ask you some kind of controversial question, you can immediately say, what's really important is, and pivot to the points that you want to make. You also don't need to answer every question that everyone asks you. If they ask you about how we're going to prevent pandemics in the future, and that's something that you don't really feel equipped to or want to answer, you could say, that's an important question, but right now we need to focus on what we need to be doing now, and then talk about the points that you want to make. Clarity and brevity are good, and especially one of the things you need to understand is there will be sound bites lifted. So if you can be clear, if you can be brief, if you can get to the point, if you have phrases like the most important thing is, or what I want people to remember, or what I want people to remember to do, those are phrases that will actually cue the interviewer on what's important and will also cue your audience to be listening for what's important. If you're communicating on the radio or when there's no visual picture, 78% of how you're heard is on your voice. So again, be clear, be direct, be honest, have animation in your voice, don't talk too fast, and have pauses. So again, these are just some tips that we wanted to put together to help you in a variety of circumstances. We know it's challenging, we know it's hard, and we so appreciate what you do because you have very important information to give to people at this really critical time. So thanks for all you do.